my fellow family foodie friends, welcome back to another What's for Dinner. This week I'm sharing with you pretty easy to prepare meals because this one is in recovery. She had knee reconstruction and she is very needy. She has been laying on the couch for a little over a week and I needed dinners that I could easily put together, put on the table, still feed the family, but be able to be nurse number one. So the first meal I'm going to share with you is chicken Alfredo. We make this Alfredo sauce all the time, and then this pan-fried chicken is something that my husband usually makes, but he got out of work later than normal, so I had to take over and substitute, which is not what I wanted to do, but you know, such is life. This actually was not part of our plan, but my daughter that's in recovery said that this chicken sounded really good, so I got it done for her. So I'm putting a seasoning mix called 721 that my husband likes to use on chicken, but we ran out of it. And so on the rest of the chicken tenders, I'm using this Slap Your Mama seasoning that my sister loves. I have now since loved it after trying it from her. And I'm just coating both sides with the seasoning, and I pan fry it just to get browned on each side, and then stick it in the oven at 350 until it reaches the minimum chicken temperature. Basically, I just let it sit in there until dinner's ready, and it's always done. So now I'm making my Alfredo. This is the Ree Drummond, the Pioneer Woman recipe. I will link below to her recipe, but we really like it. It comes together really easily. My husband and I both make it. We do add garlic usually into our Alfredo, but it is not necessary and it's really good. It just kind of goes as an easy side to any number of dinners. We like to have it on any noodle and any sort of meat that goes with it. Alfredo is just always a win in our opinion. And as I mentioned, the Ree Drummond recipe will be linked below. Matt and I are both really big fans of this everything bread. We like to have it with bread, butter, and cheese just as a snack or as a side to meals like we're having tonight. Again, with bread, butter, and cheese. It's just really easy and it's $1 at Walmart. It's so delicious and I highly recommend you try it if you haven't. And we love this Cuisinart electric knife to easily slice it with. Linked below. And we are now just plating the dinners. This is a really easy meal to come together. My whole family likes it because my daughter that doesn't eat meat, she just omits the chicken. You can put plain noodles. We can put as much Alfredo on as you want. I'm a really saucy girl. My husband puts very little on, but it's an easy to customize dinner for any picky eater in your family. First dinner of the week, down the hatch. And now we're moving on to taquitos and queso. These are frozen taquitos from Trader Joe's. They actually come, yeah, they do come frozen. And I am making two types, so those cartons will get me through 2 meals. I'm making chicken and then black bean. As I mentioned, one of my daughters doesn't eat meat. The first thing I have to do is defrost my guac from Aldi. I buy it whenever it goes on sale and just stick them in my freezer. I have so many in there, and it's a perfect addition to any Mexican type meal. So I am using a double boiler to make a queso. I have a cup of whole milk that I'm adding in here. I have some chicken broth, a 4.5 ounce can of green diced chilies. I'm adding some seasonings in here, and I'm just making a really well seasoned creamy base, and then I'm going to try adding in the quesadilla cheese. I normally make a queso using queso blanco Velveeta, but I thought maybe buying the quesadilla cheese would be a better option since Velveeta is so processed. Unfortunately, my thought was flawed because the quesadilla cheese is super stretchy and it's super like stringy, as if you know you pull 2 pieces of the quesadilla apart, you're gonna get the stringy cheese. Well, that's what I ended up with, and I do not recommend using it when you're making queso. My queso tasted really good, but the cheese didn't become super creamy like you'd want. So while it wasn't a grand slam, it was definitely delicious still, just a live and learn moment where I need to definitely get a more creamy cheese instead of a stretchy one. So if you've never made queso over a double boiler, I do think that is a tip that you could take away from this, is using a double boiler to make your queso provides a not direct heat source and a really nice even way to get your contents mixed well together. And I definitely like making my queso that way, especially if I'm using a shredded cheese instead of a Velveeta. Velveeta pretty much melts anywhere you put it because that's what it's designed to do. But when you need to get a hard cheese to melt, a double boiler is the best way to go, in my opinion. I am now using my little dipper. I do love using this for all of my queso needs once I have it made, or sometimes if I'm using the queso blanco, I just add all my ingredients right in there and stir it directly from the little dipper. But this will just keep it nice and warm until dinner, and my queso actually came together a little better while it sat in there, but it still wasn't an all-star. So now that the queso is made and getting ready, I can just easily pop these right into the oven. I know that's a pretty straightforward thing to do because I just followed the recipe. Here they are done. Magic. And since they're quite long and I have 6 little hands eating dinner, I did end up cutting these in half so someone didn't feel like they were getting gypped by only getting 1. I could give them 3, which was only 1.5 taquitos. If you're a mom, you understand playing those mind games with your kids to get them to eat dinner. But now I'm just getting all my condiments. I have a red salsa, green salsa, sour cream, and guac. That is why I love dinners like this, because I love the dips. And I'm covering my taquitos in the queso. I have a can of black beans, and that was the dinner. This is the dinner I was most excited to make, and it turned out to be a complete grand slam. We loved it. So I bought this slow-cooked beef barbacoa at Costco. Again, I was tricked because I thought it was $6.99. It was $6.99 a pound, and that made it almost $16. So I thought I better really love this stuff since I paid way more than I thought that I did. But what you do is you open the contents, and there are chunks of beef that had been apparently slow roasted, and you add them into a pan. You have to heat it up, and then you're gonna, once it's heated, you're gonna shred it and add in a red chili sauce. I have that going on the stove while I'm prepping all of my nacho toppings. I have green onions, a fresh jalapeno, lettuce, and cilantro. We love to have lots of fresh greens on our nachos. Everyone in my family puts their nachos together a different way, and I will probably say that I'm the one that has the most toppings. But we did this following the taquito meal because I then had leftover black beans we could put on our nachos. I had leftover guacamole, and I was able to use the complete package of guacamole. So by the time my prep work was done, the beef was thoroughly heated. I added in the red chili sauce, and it all started to smell amazing. My husband came home from work while this was cooking and said, "Oh my goodness, what are we having for dinner?" because he thought it smelled really good. And the funny thing is, I ended up making these nachos, and he was so excited about them. He said this is what he was hoping to get from a Mexican restaurant we had went to recently, and he was really disappointed by their nachos. He said that what I made was pretty much what he was hoping to get there. So that made me feel quite proud and like I was wife of the year, or at least the evening. So this is a pretty straightforward process. I have emptied almost an entire bag of Cantina chips between 2 pans, and I'm just kind of spreading out the beef. We don't need a ton of meat. As you can see, it's not like I'm covering my chips in them. And then I leave about 1/3 of one of the pans without meat for my daughter that doesn't eat meat. And I'm covering both sheets in cheddar and then the queso quesadilla cheese. We really love that cheese, and I love putting it on my Mexican meals. I have put it in the oven only for 7 minutes. That is at 350 degrees. It doesn't take long. My meat was already cooked and heated, and then the cheese just needed to melt, and we don't like it when our cheese gets burnt. So if you do like more of a crispy cheese, you can go ahead and stick them in any longer. It's really to your cheese preference because once they're cooked, it's ready to eat. Your meat was already ready, so it's just heating your cheese at that point. But look how good those are. And as you can see, I'm about to hog out on all the toppings. So I have black beans, every single green that I cut. I put my salsas and the guac on the side so that I can dip. I would have put sour cream on here, but my stinking cat started licking the sour cream the evening before, and we had to throw it out. My cat is very naughty the older she gets, but look at these nachos. I only took a little, as you can see. If you stay tuned to the end of the video, you can see how I froze the rest of my barbacoa for future nacho dinners. And now we're moving on to gyoza, white rice, and broccoli. This is another Trader Joe's favorite, and by favorite I mean I've made it a number of times now, and I think of it as a favorite. My family doesn't love it as much as me, but they will tolerate it, which is all right in my book. So I have a steamer basket sitting on top of a trivet and a cup of water in my Instant Pot. I am putting the entire package of gyoza in here. I have learned that I can stack the dumplings and get away with it. I just hit the steam button on my Instant Pot, It is only 4 minutes on the high pressure setting, and I come back and it's good to go. So while the dumplings are going in the Instant Pot, I just get this pan ready with some sesame oil. I put a very generous amount in there because I love me some sesame oil, and it's just ready. I will have the pan heated up and ready to go when the dumplings are done. And now I'm getting some broccoli ready to steam. This is one of 2 meals that we steam broccoli this week just because my family eats it so easily. When my dumplings are done, I just take them. I use the sleeve oven mitt. I got it from my hoodie. And I take it right over to the pan and I dump it into the heated up pan with the sesame oil. I didn't heat my pan too long before the dumplings are done, just enough that it's hitting the hot oil. And I like to just get a little bit of a crisp on the sides of these. I actually like the dumplings right from the steaming, but my husband likes to have them a little more crispy, and if I want him to eat this meal, I pretty much try to prepare it the best as possible. And I have 2 Instant Pots for nights like tonight when I use one Instant Pot for the main course and the other Instant Pot for either mashed potatoes or rice. I add 1 cup of rice, 1 cup of water, and hit the rice button on the Instant Pot. It is the easiest thing ever, and it makes perfect rice every single time. I have been able to make up to 3 cups of rice at the same time. 4 was just too much. That's just my opinion. I added some Gyoza sauce, also from Trader Joe's. I don't doctor it, I don't do anything to it. I think it's really good on its own, and I don't know anything about Thai flavors to change it. I just like it as it is. And I'm plating everything. I have my white rice, broccoli, and dumplings. And we've been having this whole bowl of grapes. I just thought I should share with you that I do have fruit available. I just didn't want grapes with this meal, but my kids eat grapes all the time. And here it is. That Gyoza sauce is amazing. I know you can't really see how yummy it looks, but believe me, it's good. And my favorite part about this dinner is those leftover dumplings make the best reheated lunch. I love it. So now we're moving on to Trader Joe's vegetable fried rice, and then I bought chicken strips that were pre-cooked at Costco. I have more broccoli there to steam, and I'm just adding this General Tso's sauce to the chicken strips. I bought that at Aldi. So this meal was definitely the easiest meal of the week. I had everything pretty much prepared. That chicken was frozen because I froze it before we left for Baltimore, and this sauce, I added a little sriracha to it for heat, but pretty much I made everything as directed. I added some canola oil, 2 tablespoons of canola oil, 3 tablespoons of sesame oil to heat up the fried rice in. I make 2 bags, and 2 bags really is not even quite enough for my family, but I tell them if you want more rice, you just need to eat more broccoli. And that's my mom response to everything. If you're still hungry, eat more fruits or vegetables, and my kids don't love it, but someday I think they'll appreciate that. Anyways, that chicken is an entire pound. We do not eat that much meat, and I am cooking it up first, frying it, and taking half of it out. I'm going to refrigerate it for a future meal. We're going to have quesadillas next week, and I'm going to use that chicken. But now that I have half of it in there, I added some of the General Tso sauce. I'm adding sriracha because we like heat, and I want a little bit of that added in from the get-go. And this is the easiest dinner you will ever meet. When we have meals like this, I add rice, my meat, and my vegetables all together. I stir it up, and it is so comforting, warm, and I love one bowl meals. And the final meal of the week is zuppa toscana, and even though I'm calling this a what's for dinner, don't hate on me because this was a lunch, but I had to share it with you guys. I've actually shared an entire video on how I make my zuppa toscana, but I made this in my Instant Pot. I have never cooked the potatoes in my Instant Pot, but I have my sausage already made, my chicken broth, and the bacon's already in there, and I'm adding my potatoes, and I'm just showing you what I do differently from my actual zuppa toscana recipe. So now that I've added my fresh potatoes in here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add my Instant Pot lid, I'm going to put it, make sure that it's sealed, and then I'm just going to hit the soup and broth button. That's 30 minutes of high pressure cooking, and that is going to cook my potatoes if you don't have hours for your soup to sit. So normally I make this either crock pot or on the stove, but within 30 minutes my potatoes were cooked and it was delicious. So then I add in my heavy cream, I'm adding in my Parmesan, and I actually normally don't add in an entire bunch of kale, but because I made this for my daughter and my daughter is recovering and needs every single bit of vitamins that she could get, I decided that more kale was the answer. So I added in an entire bunch of kale. And when you see how big that bunch of kale is, you almost might call this kale soup with a little bit of broth. But it ended up turning out really good, especially the next day when the kale isn't as big and it's cooked down. I love having kale. This is the only way I eat kale. So if anyone asks me if I eat kale, I'll just say yes, as long as it's served with sausage and a fatty broth. Although seeing how well it worked out adding this much kale, I probably will do this every time in the future because neither of my kids that eat this soup with me complained, and more greens are better for you, right? And now I am topping it with shredded cheese. I love this stuff. It's from Sam's Club, and since we don't have a Sam's membership, my in-laws have picked this up for me, and as soon as we run out, I will be handing them money to get me some more. Okay, so earlier I showed you I was preparing my entire package of beef barbacoa because it didn't come shredded and fully prepared, and I wanted to share with you how I am saving 3 meals worth after I had the nachos. I make freezer bags and then I use a food saver. I just scooped it once it was cool into 3 separate bags, and then I hit the wet setting since the meat has juices with it. And I'm labeling them once it is sealed, and they will go right into the freezer, and I will pull these out the night before I want to make nachos again. So I have 3 more meals worth of barbacoa beef ready to go, and I will simply heat it up in a skillet. Definitely worth the effort. If you like to prepare meals ahead of time, I definitely recommend that you check out my taco preparation. I share with you how I make taco meat like Taco Bell and freeze it in meal-size logs. I hope you enjoyed this What's for Dinner, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao down and ciao!